All right, I'm live and I don't know. Oh, okay, there you are. StreamYard is showing that I had 0 people here, which is like, okay, well, I guess I can entertain myself for a possible upload, but I swear I saw people in the chat, so I was highly confused. But how is everybody doing? I think it's a good Wednesday. I feel that the headline story most of us can feel good about, that we're finally moving past a community's nightmare. I mean, that I can only imagine it. And it's like there is definitely a part of me that wants to just celebrate and say, yeah, he's going away. But it's really not dignified, because I feel so terrible about all the death and everything that occurred with that horrible incident that Darrell Brooks brought upon us. And I'm going to take satisfaction that he's going away. It won't bring back the families. It won't bring back the children. It won't bring back any of these people. But at least he's gone. And it was really terrible because he made everything so much worse with his antics in the trial that it was really just trying the patience of everyone involved. And I'm definitely going to be going into that story a little bit more, but I know everybody is super excited that I need to get a sponsor read out of the way, and it's HelloFresh. HelloFresh. You've probably heard of them, as they are America's #1 meal kit. They offer over 50 weekly options, giving an amazing amount of variety of recipes so you'll never get bored. They even have veggie, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome meals to make it easy to stick to your goals. With HelloFresh, step-by-step recipes are super easy to follow, and pre-portioned ingredients help cut out the prep time. It's also up to 72% cheaper than dining at a restaurant, according to Zagat. To try HelloFresh, just click the link below and you'll get 17 free meals across 7 boxes, plus 3 surprise gifts. Thank you very much, and thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. All right, everybody, seriously, thank you very much for indulging me with an ad with super chats. I know you all support different people. You support us on locals and everything else, and it really, really means a lot. And let me give you a little bit more of a reason why it matters so much. I received this email quite literally today, and it is telling me, good news. After manually reviewing your video, we determined that it's suitable for all advertisers. Okay, now this literally just came in today, and I was like, oh man, I guess one of my videos was yellow and I didn't know it. What happened? Okay, whatever. So I went ahead and I looked at the video and I saw the slap aftermath and Bruce Willis retires. Wait, what? So let's look up the video here real quickly. Where is this video from now? When did this happen? So let me go ahead, and I've got a neat plugin, by the way, in Chrome, where I can go to any YouTube video and look up the exact actual upload time. Hopefully that's in the window. It's not showing up for you, unfortunately. That's weird. But this video that I uploaded went up March 30th of 2022. March 30th. Think about that for a second. This video has been limited monetization for almost 7 months. Because I mean, we're heading into, we're almost in November now. So this is why, HelloFresh as a sponsor, everything really does help. And your patience, I'm deeply thankful that you are patient about it. So on a lighter note, and I will be getting back to Darrell Brooks because I'm going to be talking about Darrell Brooks and some different things more so later. But I want to have some fun because a cute little short was released earlier. I hope everybody has already seen it, but not everybody is toiling around Twitter like I am. I'm Hunley Eric on Twitter, by the way, if you want to follow me there, of course. But Elon Musk released this quick little short, has 15.1 million views.
And what was it? You can't help it. That's okay.
I'm sorry. I love the fact that he was quite a ways on the nose. Entering Twitter headquarters, let that sink in. And then you can see he's got a new title if you go to his profile. He is Chief Twit at Twitter headquarters. And I love that. I also love, I don't know if anybody saw the crybabies that immediately came out and they started to go into the whole, but it's not a kitchen sink. He couldn't even get the joke right. He didn't say kitchen sink. He said, let that sink in. Don't you love people who are so angry all the time and they always want to one up at people that they'll come out with some BS because they have nothing? They're like, oh, he didn't do it. It wasn't a kitchen sink. It's like, no, it's a bathroom sink because Twitter's a toilet. I mean, come on, people. Jeez. But, you know, what do you expect? I'm sure that some of you may have heard of this already, but Elon actually did write, or I don't know if it was an interview, but he stated that 75% of the workforce was going to be laid off. And that's obviously not good news. I mean, if you're working for a company and you're going to get laid off, well, shit, that's not cool. I mean, that's bad news. So if somebody is coming into the company and they make that statement ahead of time, what would a normal person do? They would probably go, okay, 75% of the people are getting laid off. One of two things have to happen. Either I need to make sure my resume is polished up and I can jump somewhere else and find another job, or I would make sure that I am so valuable to him or, you know, the incoming leadership that I'm valuable, that they won't want to let me go. Rotten Ralph, good point. What is normal? Maybe that's the wrong word. Maybe I should say this is common. I don't know. I've given up on saying common sense because that's rare. I always just say sense anymore because, well, usually it's, oh, finally somebody has some sense. It's not, well, they're just showing common sense, because common sense has been out the window for, I give up. Now it's probably been a decade or more. Common sense is gone. I'm not even going to bother. But Brutus, is he going to hire AI? Elon's not in love with AI. Not sure if he's going to hire them, but good question. Yeah, I thought that too when W Daisy Girl. That's actually hard to say. I hope he fires all Chris Boozy's friends too. Anyway, I would do one of those two things personally. I would be making sure that my resume was tight, and I would make sure that I'm super valuable. Probably both. You know, may try to cover my bases. So the employees at Twitter, though, they tried a third approach that I never would have considered. They, Let's go to here and share the right screen, Eric. They wrote an open letter. An open letter. Don't you love open letters? Open letters are such it's such an entitlement, narcissistic type of thing. Like, I'm going to write an open. Nobody gives a damn what you think. Nobody cares what I think. I'm going to write an open letter. Staff, Elon Musk, and board of directors, we, the undersigned Twitter workers, believe the public conversation is in jeopardy. Elon Musk's plan to lay off 75% of Twitter workers will hurt Twitter's ability to serve the public conversation. A threat of this magnitude is reckless. It undermines our users and customers' trust in our platform and is a transparent act of worker intimidation. Twitter has significant effects on societies and communities across the globe. As we speak, Twitter is helping to uplift independent journalism in Ukraine and Iran, as well as powering social movements around the world. Would these be social movements or bowel movements? Seriously, help me out. Because I'm going to go with bowel movements personally. Because the social movements that they're helping are, the boozy types. So, again, we got a sink. Next time you bring a toilet and it can flush. A threat to workers at Twitter is a threat to Twitter's future. That's probably a good thing. It's never profited, folks. These threats have an impact on us as workers and demonstrate a fundamental disconnect with the realities of operating Twitter. Yes, that's why he's buying you. They threaten our livelihoods, access to essential healthcare, and the ability for visa holders to stay in the country they work in. Okay, that I'm not going to be snarky with. I don't necessarily want to take away anybody's healthcare. Don't want to take away visas necessarily, etc. So while I'm being snarky about a lot, I do understand that people want to buy groceries, and that sucks. That is not cool. I'm not trying to mock that. I'm trying to mock the attitude of the people who are demanding these things. And I actually feel that the open letter is kind of proof as to why he's got to go there and clean it out. I mean, uplifting, yeah, come on. Ugh. Back to the bowel movements, right? Anyway, we cannot do our work in an environment of constant harassment and threats. Without our work, there is no Twitter. Okay. So it remains to be seen. If you are no longer at Twitter, then that means Twitter doesn't exist. Maybe you're right. We'll see. You know what? We'll take that experiment. We'll take that thought experiment. You go home. We, the workers at Twitter, will not be intimidated. We recommit to supporting the communities, organizations, and businesses who rely on Twitter. We will not stop serving the public conversation. We call on Twitter management and Elon Musk to cease these negligent layoff threats. As workers, we deserve concrete commitments so we can continue to preserve our integrity of our platform. We demand of current and future leadership respect. We demand leadership to respect the platform and the workers who maintain it by committing to preserving the current headcount. No, there's no guarantees. And again, why is he buying the platform? Is he buying the platform because it's so good? Everyone's so happy with Twitter right now? Or is he buying the platform because you're a seeping, horrible, pestilous pile of garbage? I go for the latter. Safety. We demand that leadership does not discriminate against workers on the basis of their race, gender, disability, sexual orientation, or political beliefs. Well, that's good. How about you take that same attitude toward people and users who are on Twitter. What do you think of that? Is that a good idea? Like, maybe we should take what you're asking for here and say, you apply it to the users. They don't agree with you politically, let's say. That's fine. They should feel safe to express their opinion. We also demand safety for workers on visas who will be forced to leave the country they work in if they are laid off. Yes, that will be sad. I do have a question, though. Are these workers a higher priority than, say, U.S.-born workers who are not on visas? I mean, if there's a worker here who qualifies, and let's say, I don't know, I don't necessarily want to push people out, but we do have talent here too. I promise. And here's another thing. I don't know that Elon Musk necessarily is all about punishing foreign workers. Last I checked, he's a foreigner. He's from South Africa himself. So he probably does support a degree of immigration. UPenn, Connecticut. Yes, I actually posted this on my locals about the Tim Robbins interview. It's very, very good. Nice to see from Tim Robbins, who quite often has been very, very strongly politically an activist. I feel like it's more signs that things are changing. All right, so here we go. Protection. We demand Elon Musk explicitly commit to preserve our benefits. Those both listed in the merger agreement and not, e.g. remote work. Yes, that's a big one. We demand leadership to establish and ensure fair severance policies for all workers before and after any change in ownership. Now, by the way, the remote work, that's a sticking point because Elon Musk does not believe in remote working. Now, I work remotely, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I don't. But I know he doesn't believe in it. And I think somebody was memeing earlier that, well, technically, if he fires them, then they will be remote. They will be at home working or seeking work. So careful of what you wish for. Dignity. We demand transparent, prompt, and thoughtful communication around our working conditions. We demand to be treated with dignity and not to be treated as mere pawns in a game played by billionaires. Good Lord. And yes, only SAS. He may well be an American citizen, but he also is from South Africa. And I don't know if he was born dual citizenship or not, but I think he probably does have a sympathy to immigration with his background, which is good. It's not a bad thing. So this is I wasn't fired. I'm just not working from home. There you go, Mad Scientist Cinema. I am happy to see that Elon is making noise. It looks like the deal may actually be going through. I mean, it has been going around and around and around, and it's so confusing as to whether it's going to occur or not occur, what the hell was going to happen. And ultimately, I guess he's going to do it. Now, I do want to set expectations, though. Just because I'm really tickled that Elon Musk is there buying them, am I certain that Elon Musk is going to be the savior everyone hopes he is? No. The guy is a modern-day industrialist. I hope he keeps it open for free speech. I hope he does half of what he promises. But I don't know. I really don't know if he will or will not. But we'll know soon. And one way we'll know is if we see people coming back on the platform whom have been thrown off. If we see people suddenly back on the platform and communicating like it's, say, 2015, 2016, we will know. And by the way, 2015, 2016, those were like boom times for Twitter. They really were. Because it was hot. All the conversation, all the conflict, everything else, it was a hot thing going on. Let's hope for that. Because I want that conversation. I don't want an echo chamber. No offense to Getter, no offense to Parler, no offense to Truth Social, no offense to Minds, no offense to Gab. I'm too lazy. I want the one that has pretty much everyone already there. And I want to communicate even with the people I don't like. So that is my hope. I don't necessarily expect it's going to be perfect. I'm sure he's going to let us down in many, many ways. But it's got to be an improvement. I know there's the whole grass is always greener element of it, but it's got to be kind of an improvement in there. Either that or he just burns it down. And that's cool too. Then we just move on to something else and that moves on. But another person apparently went to a headquarters today. And this literally just broke. Very interesting. Kanye West can't seem to stay out of the news right now. Apparently, he went to Skechers and went to the headquarters, showed up uninvited, and was escorted out. Okay. I might have a different take on this than a lot of people. I don't know. And I'm really curious about the chat. Do you think this is a good thing and hilarious? Or do you see, maybe something else is going on here? And I'll tell you why I have the divergent view. Because, Skechers does have Jewish people who are working there. Very specifically, do you see who the two individuals are standing next to in this picture? This cute picture right here? That strange guy in the middle? Yeah. Remember, that was the guy whose wife had Kim Kardashian on speed dial. Makes you wonder. So this is my silly little theory, okay? And by the way, I don't support Kanye's statements. My thing is kind of, hey, conservatives who are cheering him on, you knew he did this kind of shit. He did have a history. Don't be too surprised. Now, let's be honest here. If a major figure, pop star, cultural figure, actor, anything, right? Fill in the blank, okay? Let's say it was Brad Pitt. I'm going to throw out Brad Pitt. If Brad Pitt showed up unannounced at the Skechers headquarters, what do you think would happen? Do you think they would say, Mr. Pitt, you were not invited here. We must escort you out. Security, get TMZ on the phone. Now, stop. No. You would probably invite him in. You would probably give him a tour of the building. You would probably give him drinks and introduce him around, wouldn't you? And yes, Sharon Dury, you would probably invite him to lunch. Might even cater it in. So, isn't it a little unusual that they not only threw him out, but it made headlines? So my argument is this, okay? whatever. I get it. If they don't want to work with them, they don't want to work with them. Whatever. They're a business. That's their choice. I'm just going to say that they're kind of full of shit. I'm going to say that they are trend jacking the Kanye West controversy to get their name in the press to get virtue signaling points. And that's my opinion. But I think I'm right on this. Otherwise, even if they weren't going to work with him, they probably would have invited him in. Hey, he's a novelty, right? I'm good God. And you just say, hey, our people call your people. Okay, bye. No, they did this, made sure this shit was in TMZ, splashed all over the news, and they're just kicking a dude who's already down. Classy folks. Now, I'm going to challenge all of you in the chat. Please, later on, comment below, but I want to hear if people are saying the same thing I am about this, or if everybody's just going, ha, 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 jumping on the bandwagon, ha, 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 Kanye got tossed out. Because the truth is, I feel like most people are going to go, ha, 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 he got tossed out. Jack Jackerson, great question. What if Mel Gibson turns up to Skechers? I will bet you he will get invited in, given a tour, possibly taken to lunch. I don't think they're going to release a Mel Gibson shoe line. But yeah, I bet you that he would be escorted in and they'd take him around or whatever else and he'd go away. George Soros probably has donated to half of the people's candidates who work at Skechers, so I'm sure they're fine. So it is interesting. And yeah, Megan, I understand that. And I have mixed feelings about that, because I really liked what Skechers did a few years ago when they got into running shoes. Was it Meb Kaplevsky? I always forget the name, but anyway, our Boston Marathon winner, who was a silver medalist, was at the end of his running career. Nobody thought anything of him, didn't have any juice left. Nobody thought anything would go anywhere with him, all that. They took a chance because they were just doing all they could to get into the shoe market, and they sponsored him. And he wound up winning the Boston Marathon. It was like a really kind of cool underdog story. And I had a place in my heart for Skechers for doing that. This though, I don't know. I don't like virtue signaling. It just irritates me. And I don't like kicking anybody when they're down. And I'm not a Kanye fan. Okay. I understand that he's popular. I've never been a fan. I'm pretty neutral on the guy. I think he says some kind of shitty stuff, though. I mean, in all fairness, he really does say shitty things. What am I going to do on that? But on that note, we're going to go on. We're going to talk about consumerism. We're going to talk about the market here. And, Skechers are seen as a discount shoes and affordable to a lot of people. This article I'm seeing now is a week old. I hope you haven't all seen it. It's still kind of shocking to me, though. Has anybody noticed grocery prices are getting bonkers? I mean, it really, really is just crazy. Like, some cheese that costs like $4 a pound is like $6.50, $7. It's a very noticeable thing. Well, rather than, addressing this directly and, fixing supply lines, things like that. We have obviously a ton of issues. Aldi has a different kind of plan to help people who can't afford groceries. And let's see if this strikes you the way it does me. Aldi's considering selling edible insects to help families through the cost of living crisis. So, you know what? You can't afford hamburger? We'll give you some ants. You can't afford veggies? We'll give you some grasshoppers. They're crunchy, right? I mean, is this a tin-eared? I mean, this is how you respond to the market? Oh, you can't buy groceries, so no worries. You know what? They even have a product, the Yum Bug. And they have edible insect recipe kits. I don't know, Sharon Dury. I do remember chocolate covered ants when I was growing up. Andrew Sermon and you. Yeah. I was kind of surprised to see this story. It is bonkers. Bonkers, bonkers, bonkers. And why is StreamYard acting weird? All right. I'm sorry that YouTube is sucking at notification. I'm actually going to be going into the main story here soon. I'm bearing the lead, putting it at the end, right? And you know what? Some insects are a delicacy in certain cultures, and that's super for for that culture. I support every culture eating what they want, but I don't wish to have my culture. Now that was I think in England, but it could come here, and I don't personally want to partake. And if I'm going to partake, I have bugs at my house, right? I could probably find something. I don't need to purchase them. That's just not my shtick. Now, on to the next story. I don't know if you guys have watched the Rankin and Bass, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I grew up with those on. Every year, Rudolph was something that played all the time. Well, Jules Bass, one of the producers of the Holiday Classic, has passed away. And by the way, here's a side note about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Does anybody know where that came from? Where his story came from? It was actually an ad campaign for Montgomery Ward. Which is just crazy. They literally wrote a full ad campaign, wrote a story about him, and put that out. This is kind of like, the modern Santa Claus is really the Coca-Cola Santa Claus, I believe, of like the late 1800s. So it's just fascinating how that went by. And I actually have a personal story about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and my background. I don't always talk a lot about it. What's Montgomery Ward? Bren, you're going to make me feel old. Montgomery Ward is kind of like Sears. They had catalogs. Don't tell me what's Sears. Please don't. But yeah, old Monkey Ward. Anyway, when I was growing up at 7, my mother changed religions and kind of got hooked up into a cult. And Christmas was no longer. So I had Christmas until I was 7. And then there was no Christmas for Eric. And that made this movie kind of particularly poignant to me because I would always watch it every year, bawling my eyes out because I didn't have Christmas. All the other kids had Christmas, but I was watching the movie. So it kind of has this weird, bittersweet quality of a major imprint in my life. And it's funny and it's crazy. When I became an adult and I got married, my wife's my mother-in-law, it was so into Christmas that I kind of got like overdone Christmas as an adult that I never had when I was a kid. But anyway, it's a touching movie, and it really it meant a lot to me as a kid growing up with that. So when I saw he died, I was like, wow, that is just amazing. So sorry to see him go, but he's well remembered, and he leaves really a hell of a great legacy behind him. But speaking of legacy, folks, this is important. Okay. Everybody knows that there's a new prime minister in England. I would argue, though, that this prime minister is not really the power behind the government. The actual prime minister, in my opinion, is Larry the Cat. Larry the Cat outlasted 4 prime ministers and is now on his 5th prime minister. And why? Because Larry the Cat is a badass. Larry the Cat actually held up Donald Trump on his visit. Why? Because Larry the Cat determined that he was going to take a nap. And the best place to take a nap, well, obviously, under the beast, right? Under the presidential limousine. I mean, come on. If you are an important world leader like Larry the Cat, you need to sleep somewhere that is both warm but safe. So he chose the beast. And I think that's a very logical, smart thing to do. A little bit controversial, but, he took his nap, he got up, and then Donald Trump was able to go on his way. Fair enough. Moving on. But you see, Larry the Cat is busy because he doesn't just take naps. Larry the Cat keeps his country safe. That Larry the Cat is escorting a fox who is much bigger than he is off the property. See, he does not truck any kind of an intruder. Larry the Cat's a badass. And you know what? That fox isn't listening. That fox is going to go. That's right, damn it. You get your butt out of here. That's right. And peace has been restored. Oh, no, you're not learning. You're not learning. Oh, hell no. Hell no, Cat. I mean, hell no, Fox. That is a badass. That is who needs to be running that country. And he actually tweeted out, to hell with it, I'm taking over. And it went completely viral. Amazing, amazing story. Kurt, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Actually, Kurt, you want to come on? I'll throw you a link. I'm about to go into Mr. Brooks. I know that you'll love talking about that. I'm sure you've said a few things about him. But he's the main subject of the day. I just DM'd you a link if you want to come on here, check it out. But yeah, and I wanted to talk about one element that was brought up in my locals, and this is not just a pitch. I actually do follow my locals, and it helps me a great deal. And that's at unstructured.locals.com. And hold on while I find my path here. Okay, so give you an idea what happens with my locals. Kurt, how you doing?
I'm good. I have 30 minutes, but I thought you figured I'd join you for those. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, perfect. Well, I usually shut down at 10 anyway, so if I run a few minutes over, we're good. I was just going to put it out because I don't know if you heard this. This is an interesting story. I put out, hey, what do you want me to talk about? And somebody posted on my locals about Darrell Brooks and his, under the breath claims, and he was fighting with the judge and everything about the vehicle recall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to clarify right away. I do not think the malfunction of his Ford had anything to do with the incident. I went and I found footage and I watched, and his story is absolute bullshit if he's trying to say that, because a vehicle that won't stop accelerating doesn't mean the steering's broken, and he managed to steer into people.
There was nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with his car. The 2008, 2009, 2010 Ford Escape did have some recalls. As I understand it, his particular model was not subject to that recall. And even if it was, the state inspector that did the inspection after the accident found no actual defects with his particular car. Just because there's a recall doesn't necessarily mean the part is failing or will fail. It just means that,
I agree.
It's just there's a manufacturer defect that needs to be replaced. You could drive that car forever without it being a problem. So, first of all, I don't think his car was subject to the recall in the first place, and even if it was, no.
No, I 100% agree on that. I wanted to clarify it.
Yeah.
I did want to point out, though, that I noticed the story didn't have any legs, that nobody talked about it. It was like very, very much not discussed outside of it. And that's interesting to me. I do think that Ford doesn't want to talk about the recall. And I'm not.
They're being sued over it, so there's that too.
Exactly. And they probably are saying, hey, do you like this advertising I'm sending to you? Maybe we shouldn't make a big deal out of it. But I wanted to put that out there because I think it's interesting that people bring that up. Now to Darrell. Thank you, Straight Catsway. I actually did not catch all the trial. But one thing I seemed to find about it was I didn't feel like I had to. I felt like every time I left and came back, I would hear the exact same thing that he had been saying when I last left. Is that a fair analogy?
Yeah, I mean, I've only been covering the last 3 or 4 days, like basically gavel to gavel, and I'm kind of glad I didn't cover more of it, to be honest, for my own sanity, because there's nothing about this case that's factually interesting. There's nothing about this case that's legally interesting. It's not a case I would typically review. And then I just basically reviewed it for the clown show, was the only thing. So yeah, you missed absolutely nothing of value in any sense.
Yeah, it seemed like, I mean, I don't know if it's technically a slam dunk, but it seemed like as close to a slam dunk of a case as I could imagine for a prosecution.
Pretty slam dunky.
I mean, you have video and everything else, but yeah, somebody put this out on Twitter. And I thought, okay, well, this covers it. This is the last day. Subject matter jurisdiction.
Yeah.
57 times.
Yeah.
Alleged due process violations. 90 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? This is part of why I wanted you. Objecting to his own name. I hear you are subject matter expert on subsets.
A little bit, yes.
Good. Help us, Professor. Tell me what the hell is going on with them.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just need to begin this entire discussion by stating the obvious that all this sovereign citizen stuff is absolute garbage and has no basis in any law, but I'll try to explain some of it to some degree. And I'm just going to warn you again, it doesn't make any sense. All right. But the sovereign citizens, they believe a whole bunch of things, but with respect to the name, they believe that the government creates a legal entity for them when they're born, and that their name on their birth certificate doesn't reflect their name, but reflects the name of the corporate entity. In the same way that you could found a corporation, so that the government creates a corporate entity.
Is this like the gender being assigned to them at birth? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's
I'm joking.
It makes absolutely no sense. No, and so like by using the name, you are accepting like the government's power over you. There's a distinction between me, the corporeal person, and the legal entity that the name reflects as reflected in government documents. So every time the government uses that name, they're not referring to the corporeal person, that's me. They're referring to this fictionalized legal entity corporation thing, which doesn't make any sense, but that's okay. But that's why he
sounds almost like the biblical 666 and the stamps and
I also particularly like the part where it was, I think it was yesterday, and I don't know if he said it other times, but I particularly like the part where he says, I'm a third party interceder or a third party whatever. And then he also in the same speech says, I don't know Darrell Brooks, I've never met him. I'm like, wait a second, how do you have him as a client if you've never met him? How does that work?
God. That would have been fun to ask him, but he probably would have interrupted you 27 times and you would have fallen over giving up with your head exploding.
No, but because the answer doesn't make sense. He also threw in the eagle on top of the flag as being a sign of Admiralty Court. I actually hadn't heard that one before. The gold fringe flag is much more common along those lines. But he never once said that he was traveling instead of driving. So he's not a very good sovereign citizen. That's like sovereign citizen 101.
Okay, does he actually know this, or was somebody feeding him this bullshit?
I think someone was feeding him this bullshit. I think he found a pamphlet somewhere that just told him to use this methodology, and he was actually surprisingly cogent. From time to time, he's caught me by surprise in just terms of proving his competence. Because this morning, for example, he was citing case law. He was citing cases with citations, and he was quoting sentences that, at least on the most superficial level, could appear to support his position. Now, they absolutely don't in any way. But like, if you were going to extract something, I'm like, damn, this actually proves he's pretty competent. He's citing authority. He's citing relevant authority. There's a sentence here, or a portion of a sentence, which taken in isolation somehow reflects his position. And I'm like, damn, that's actually a pretty cogent argument. So, I mean, he's getting better as an attorney, so he might have a future as a jailhouse attorney. I don't know.
Well, he has time to practice.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll become an expert. I don't know. He could work on presentation.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
I was also he also continues to surprise me. I've lost my bet several times. Basically, I lost the bet that he would actually make a closing argument. I didn't think it would happen. I just assumed that he would rant and rave and everything and be thrown out of the courtroom. So I lost that bet. I also lost the bet on him basically, ranting and raving during his being convicted. I thought for sure he'd be being a disruptive jackass, but that didn't happen. So I don't know. That one
surprised me. I don't know if he just gave up. If he knew that, okay, once it goes to jury, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I see absolutely no viable grounds of appeal whatsoever.
No, and I wanted to ask you that too. Apparently that the judge has taken some criticism for being too patient, and I kind of feel like she was in a nearly impossible position. And maybe I'm too soft, but I kind of saw her as doing everything possible and having the philosophy of, I can stand in a bucket of shit for 3 weeks to make this stick, so I never have to see him, hear of this again, ever, ever, ever in my life.
I think the fairest thing you could say in the judge's defense is she played it the safest way possible. She played it absolutely completely safe. There's a continuum. Like the ultimate issue, if you want sort of the bottom line, is abuse of discretion, right? And sort of the judge's orders. Does the judge abuse their discretion? Abuse of discretion is a pretty hard trigger to pull, just generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Courts get a lot of latitude, a lot. When they tell it to the judge, they're not kidding, because the judge has a lot of power over you when they're in their courtroom. So she was as far on one end of the spectrum as I think it was possible to be. I don't think she could have been any more accommodating. That isn't necessarily a praise point, though. I think the biggest criticisms I have of the judge is that simply she wasn't willing to really stand by her threats. She'd say, well, I'm giving you one more chance, and then would proceed to give him like 10 more chances. And that's just not how you do that. You have to have authority, and you have to be willing to stand by your threat, or your threats are meaningless. And if she had been willing to stand by her threats and exert herself more, maybe some more of that wouldn't have happened. And I think she could have been far, far more authoritative and still been well on the side of proper conduct. Because you'd have to go pretty far. I mean, her losing her temper, her like stuff. I mean, he was forfeiting by conduct all the time. Like, as a court of appeals, like, it's a little bit hard to imagine what she could even like do in principle, because he was just being so obstinate by his own conduct. Basically, he was the one that's creating the problem, and we don't allow people to get relief for the problems they themselves create, because that would be dumb. Like, you're the one creating the problem. We're not going to give you the benefit because of the problem you created in the first place. So yeah, I think the judge was playing it super duper duper safe. There's absolutely no grounds of appeal, but I think she did it at the expense of her own authority and potentially maltreatment in the future, and also just it wasn't the greatest look. So I let me tell you this: if it were me, it would have had a very different flavor to it.
You would have been like the judge was in the Avery.
I would have said one more chance, and then actually done the thing. And I would have thrown you out of the courtroom and then like brought you in at the next break, not just whenever the hell you feel like it.
No, I hear that.
And made you promise actually explicitly that you're going to behave, which she didn't make him do. It's like, well, I'll keep you over there until you perform. I think her legal analysis was completely correct. I agreed with her legal analysis in terms of what she was doing.
She just wasn't firm enough.
She wasn't firm enough.
And consistent. Okay. Ziggy brings up a good point. And it's something that I was arguing with the locals community on this too. I don't know how the local community feels about her and her conduct, because that's very significant. Remember when during Rittenhouse, everybody was beating up Richardson to a pretty good degree. I mean, I don't know of anybody who didn't criticize him.
Yeah, we definitely had criticisms, particularly for failures to object. Yeah, I remember that quite a lot.
And I was part of it too, because I just went right along. But I sit there and think about it, it's like, he won. And clearly won. And I don't live there. So having like Natalie Wisco on or whatever talking about, no, this is the people here and they act a certain way. I do wonder if that might be a mitigation or something to consider too. Like if the people, they're not in Minnesota, they're Wisconsin, but they might be close to Minnesota nice. And I don't know if that is a factor or not, culturally speaking.
I don't know. I think the judge was going completely out of her way at the expense of her own authority and at the expense of her own courtroom. Courts, since the beginning, since we invented the concept, basically inherited from the English, courts have always had an incredible amount of authority. And because it's also a derivative power of the king, I suppose, like all authority is in some ways. But the judge has power over their courtroom and over the people before them. It's like, yeah, it's one of the reasons rule number one of litigation is don't piss off the judge, because the judge has an incredible amount of power, and you can complain about fairness all you like and a tyranny, but like no one cares. So don't piss off the judge is a great place to start in every legal matter.
I mean, that would seem to definitely be a good idea. All right, so I'm going to go with one more thing, and I did want to talk about this with the chat and everything, and that's him during his closing argument, where I thought it was interesting, and this is him bringing up the vehicle stuff again, but I think it's significant in this way.
While attempting to alert people of their presence. Which brings me to more information that I believe that you should have been privy to. And I'm sure that the prosecution will beg to differ. But the fact of the matter is, the vehicle in question, make a model of 2010 Ford Escape. The vehicle in question, actually 2008, 2009, and 2010 of that model was in fact recalled.
Objection, misstatement of the facts, facts not in evidence.
Was in fact.
Argument, Your Honor.
Okay, the reason why I want to play this is the number one salient point. He said that the vehicle in question is recalled. He didn't say his vehicle is recalled.
Yeah, my understanding is it was not.
Right, but my bottom line point is this, and it's using his own words. He didn't say, I tried to stop.
No.
He said, people said they saw brake lights. He never said, I tried to stop. It wouldn't, this vehicle wouldn't stop. He never once. Now, I didn't watch all the trial and I wanted to run it by you. Did you ever hear him ever say, I didn't do it? No. I tried to stop. The vehicle went out of control and I couldn't stop it. I didn't either. And that's, that goes into statement analysis 101 because people don't like to lie. So technically he's not lying. There's a recall on the vehicles. That is true. People saw a brake light. That is true. But the number one point, and I want to bring it up because I think it should make everybody feel as if they probably don't already, pretty good about it, is the son of a bitch never said, I didn't do it. He never said, it ran away from me. I lost control. I feel terrible. None of that. Everything is detached. Everything is that. Yeah, good point. He didn't want to admit he was a driver. Is that sovereign citizen? The vehicle drove itself?
No, that's not necessarily a sovereign citizen thing.
It was a joke.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I did not get to hear saying his conscience was clear, which is quite disturbing. But either way, was there anything of value out of this other than seeing that he will go away forever and ever and ever?
The only other thing that's of value is I suppose, a pragmatic lesson, to the degree that you think that patience in the face of complete frustration, absurdity, and disrespect is a value. The prosecutor and judge were demonstrating that exemplarily. I don't know. I forget who said it, but basically that every virtue taken to its extreme is a vice, because it becomes so much that it becomes at the expense of other things. And so that might be a case in point where patience itself became a vice. But if you're interested in learning patience, they were demonstrating it.
Yeah. I had to turn it off at points because I could not personally handle it. So on that happy note, I appreciate everyone being patient with me. I have a redirect going to Joe Neerman of Good Logic. He goes on at 10-ish. Supposed to be at 10, but I think he's usually late. But everybody, you will be transported over there. And hey, Kurt, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, no problem, man. It's been fun.